You can't focus right now, can you? I'd bet money that while you're watching this, you've got at least 3 other tabs open. Your phone is within arm's reach, buzzing with notifications, and part of your brain is already wondering what you'll check next. You're not broken, and you're not weak. You're experiencing something that's never happened before in human history, and there's a specific reason why your brain feels like it's been put in a blender. The average person now switches tasks every 3 minutes and takes 23 minutes to fully refocus after each interruption. We're the first generation to have our neural pathways literally rewired by technology before we even understood what was happening. Your brain receives over 67 notifications per day, each one triggering a small dopamine hit that creates what researchers call intermittent variable reinforcement. It's the same psychological mechanism that makes gambling addictive, except it's happening in your pocket all day long. But here's what's absolutely wild about this situation. 400 years ago, a secret brotherhood in medieval Europe developed concentration techniques so powerful that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to understand how they worked. These weren't just meditation practices or spiritual exercises. They were precision technologies for transforming human consciousness. And they might just be the exact solution your scattered brain needs right now. Picture this scene from 1614. Mysterious documents start appearing across European cities, causing what historians call the Rosicrucian furore. The papers speak of a secret brotherhood called the Brothers of the Rosenkreuz, promising universal reformation through the transformation of human consciousness. Scholars, nobility, and commoners are captivated. Some dismiss it as elaborate fiction, but others spend fortunes trying to contact these mysterious figures. In London, a brilliant physician named Robert Flood isn't just reading about these techniques, he's defending them. When skeptics attack the Rosicrucian claims, Flood writes his Tractatus Apologeticus in 1617, demonstrating their power through what he calls his cosmic memory theater. This isn't just intellectual posturing. Flood can hold entire libraries of information in his mind, accessed through geometric visualizations that seem to defy human memory limitations. Meanwhile, across the channel, Michael Meyer creates something unprecedented in human history. His Atalanta Fugiens, published in 1618, becomes the world's first multimedia concentration manual. It combines intricate copper engravings, musical compositions, and alchemical text in ways that modern neuroscientists recognize as activating both brain hemispheres simultaneously. Meyer isn't just making art, he's engineering attention itself. What these men understood, and what we're only rediscovering through advanced brain imaging, is that focused attention isn't a matter of willpower. It's about creating precise conditions where sustained concentration becomes inevitable. They developed what they called the sanctum principle, operating on 3 interconnected levels that literally rewire your neural networks. The first level addresses your physical environment. This isn't about having a quiet room or meditation corner. The Rosicrucians discovered that your environment programs your mental state at such a fundamental level that most people never realize it's happening. Every angle, proportion, and element in your physical space either supports or undermines your capacity for deep focus. Think about the last time you tried to concentrate in a cluttered, chaotic environment versus a clean, organized space. You probably attributed any difference to personal preference, but the Rosicrucians understood something profound. Your brain processes environmental information constantly, and visual chaos creates cognitive chaos. They developed specific proportional relationships, lighting principles, and spatial arrangements that naturally promote sustained attention. The second level involves your internal mental environment. Modern sleep research reveals that our brains have default modes, background patterns of activity that either support focus or fragment it. The Rosicrucians developed precise breathing techniques, visualization practices, and mental exercises that essentially reprogram these default patterns. They discovered that specific geometric forms serve as extraordinarily effective anchors for attention, not because of mystical properties, but because these patterns align with how your visual cortex processes information. When you visualize a rose cross or contemplate sacred geometric relationships, you're engaging neural networks in ways that naturally promote coherent brain activity. The third level synchronizes your individual consciousness with larger biological rhythms. This involves circadian cycles, seasonal patterns, even lunar influences that affect everything from hormone production to sleep quality. Modern chronobiology confirms what these practitioners knew intuitively. When you align focused work with natural biological rhythms, your capacity for sustained attention increases dramatically. What makes this absolutely fascinating is how these techniques influenced some of the most brilliant minds in human history. When the Royal Society was founded in 1660, establishing the foundations of modern science, it included members like Isaac Newton, Robert Boyle, and Christopher Wren. All of them studied these concentration practices. They weren't just doing groundbreaking research. They were applying Rosicrucian focus techniques to revolutionize human knowledge. Newton's Principia Mathematica, arguably the most important scientific work ever written, emerged from decades of sustained concentration, developed through these very methods. His ability to hold complex mathematical relationships in mind for hours at a time wasn't just genius. It was trained attention using principles the Rosicrucians preserved from ancient wisdom traditions. Now contrast that with today's reality. You're facing something unprecedented in human history. For the first time, external technologies are specifically designed to capture and fragment human attention. Every app on your phone employs teams of neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists working to make their platform as irresistible as possible. You're not just distracted. You're being actively conditioned for distraction by some of the most sophisticated psychological manipulation ever deployed. Dr. Larry Rosen's research at California State University found that university students can only focus for an average of 19 seconds before their attention wanders to digital stimulation. 19 seconds. These are intelligent, motivated young people in their cognitive prime, and they literally cannot maintain attention longer than it takes to read this sentence. MIT studies show that knowledge workers interrupt themselves every 3 minutes, even when working alone. You're not just being distracted by external forces. You're training yourself to seek distraction. Your brain is becoming wired for fragmentation, losing what researchers call cognitive control over your own attention. This is where the Rosicrucian insights become absolutely crucial. While modern productivity approaches try to fight distraction through willpower or organizational systems, the Rosicrucians understood something far more profound. You cannot overcome fragmented attention by fighting it directly. You have to transform the underlying conditions that create fragmentation in the first place. Their approach worked because it addressed distraction at 3 fundamental levels simultaneously. Environmental design eliminates external triggers for scattered attention. Physiological training through breathing and visualization directly influences the autonomic nervous system patterns, that either support or undermine focus. Cognitive anchoring through geometric contemplation provides stable reference points that prevent mental wandering. What's remarkable is how precisely their methods align with cutting-edge neuroscience. Harvard Medical School research led by Dr. Sarah Lazar shows that just 8 weeks of geometric meditation increases cortical thickness in brain regions, controlling attention and working memory. These aren't subtle changes. They're measurable structural improvements that enhance cognitive performance for years afterward. Stanford's Dr. Andrew Huberman demonstrates that specific environmental factors like lighting angles, color temperatures, and spatial proportions directly affect the brain's ability to maintain focused attention. The exact same principles the Rosicrucians encoded in their sanctum design protocols 4 centuries ago. Recent studies on attention residue confirm another Rosicrucian insight. When you switch between tasks, fragments of attention remain attached to the previous activity, reducing your cognitive capacity for hours afterward. The Rosicrucians called this profane concerns contaminating sacred work, and their sanctum principles specifically address eliminating this contamination. What makes their system revolutionary, rather than just historically interesting, is that they understood developing focus isn't about forcing attention into submission. It's about creating conditions where sustained concentration becomes effortless, even pleasurable. Modern meditation research confirms this. The most effective attention training feels good, not forced. The physical sanctum creates an environment that naturally supports deep focus. This goes far beyond having a quiet space. The Rosicrucians discovered that specific proportional relationships, particularly those based on the golden ratio, create visual harmony that reduces cognitive load. When your environment contains these naturally pleasing proportions, your brain doesn't waste energy processing visual discord, leaving more resources available for sustained attention. They also understood the crucial importance of dedicated space. Modern research shows that our brains form location-dependent memories and attention states. When you always check email in the same place you try to do creative work, you're literally training your brain to associate that space with fragmented attention. The Rosicrucians insisted on spaces used exclusively for focused work, allowing the brain to develop what neuroscientists call context-dependent concentration. The mental sanctum techniques work because they engage what researchers now call the default mode network. That's your brain's background activity when not focused on specific tasks. Most people's default mode involves anxious thinking, mental chatter, and attention wandering. The Rosicrucian visualization practices essentially reprogram this default state toward calm alertness and sustained focus. Their breathing techniques are particularly sophisticated. The 4-7-8 pattern they employed, 4 counts breathing in, 7 counts holding, 8 counts breathing out, creates what's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. This is a state where your heart rate variability optimizes brain function for sustained attention. Modern biofeedback research confirms that this specific pattern reliably induces the neural conditions most supportive of deep focus. The geometric visualization component works because these patterns naturally synchronize brainwave activity between different regions. When you visualize a rose cross expanding from your heart center, you're not just thinking about mystical symbols. You're creating coherent communication between your brain's analytical and intuitive networks. fMRI studies show that this type of visualization increases connectivity between hemispheres, while reducing activity in brain regions associated with self-referential thinking and mental wandering. The celestial sanctum practices align your individual attention rhythms with larger biological cycles that most people completely ignore. Your brain's ability to focus varies dramatically throughout the day, following circadian patterns that influence everything from neurotransmitter production to core body temperature. The Rosicrucians discovered optimal timing for different types of mental work, insights that modern chronobiology has extensively validated. They also recognized that sustained attention is easier during certain lunar phases, not through mystical influence, but because lunar cycles affect sleep quality, hormone production, and other biological factors that influence cognitive performance. Modern research confirms that emergency room visits, sleep disturbances, and even stock market volatility follow lunar patterns that most people don't consciously recognize, but that definitely affect mental functioning. What makes this even more compelling is how these techniques have been preserved and refined through organizations like the ancient mystical order Rosicrucis, which has maintained an unbroken lineage of these practices for over a century. Their modern research, with over 250,000 members worldwide, shows that practitioners consistently develop focus abilities that exceed normal population averages by substantial margins. AMORC studies demonstrate that people using these techniques can maintain sustained attention for periods 3 to 4 times longer than control groups after just 30 days of practice. More remarkably, these improvements seem to be permanent. Practitioners tested years later retain their enhanced attention abilities even if they stop formal practice. The system operates through progressive training that builds focus capacity gradually, while addressing the root causes of distraction at each level. You begin with the physical sanctum by creating a dedicated space for focused work. This doesn't require a separate room or expensive equipment. It requires understanding how environmental factors influence attention. The space should face east when possible, aligning with natural circadian rhythms. It should eliminate all notification sources and contain geometric proportions that naturally please the eye. The key is absolute consistency. This space is used only for deep, focused work, never for email, social media, or other fragmented activities. Within just a few days, your brain begins associating this environment with sustained attention states, making focus easier each time you enter the space. The mental sanctum practices begin each focused work session with a specific protocol that transitions your brain from fragmented to coherent attention. This starts with the 4-7-8 breathing pattern, repeated for several minutes, allowing your nervous system to shift from stress response to calm alertness. Next comes the Rosenkreuz visualization, seeing a golden rose blooming at your heart center, then extending rays of light infinitely in all directions. This isn't mystical imagination. It's engaging specific neural networks that promote hemispheric synchronization and sustained attention. The geometric precision of the visualization provides a stable anchor that prevents mental wandering. Then you engage in what they called mental rehearsal, clearly visualizing yourself completing your intended focused work with perfect clarity and sustained attention. This programs your subconscious expectations and activates the neural networks you'll need for the actual work. The celestial sanctum practices involve longer weekly sessions that deepen your overall attention capacity. These include extended geometric meditation, gratitude practices that enhance positive emotional states conducive to focus, and conscious alignment with natural rhythms that optimize your cognitive performance. What's beautiful about this system is how it transforms the subjective experience of sustained attention. Instead of forcing focus through willpower, you create conditions where deep concentration feels natural and enjoyable. Instead of fighting distraction, you develop such strong attention that distractions simply bounce off without disrupting your flow. The results speak for themselves. Practitioners report not just better focus at work, but enhanced creativity, improved relationships, and a sense of mental clarity they hadn't experienced since childhood. They describe feeling like they've remembered how to think deeply, how to be present, how to engage fully with whatever they're doing. Modern neuroscience explains why these changes are so profound. Sustained attention is the foundation for every higher cognitive function. When you improve your ability to focus, you enhance working memory, creative problem solving, emotional regulation, and even empathy. You're not just becoming more productive, you're becoming more fully human. Perhaps most importantly, developing real focus capacity gives you agency over your own consciousness. Instead of being at the mercy of whatever captures your attention, you choose where to direct your mental energy. Instead of feeling scattered and reactive, you experience the deep satisfaction that comes from sustained engagement with meaningful work. This isn't about becoming a monk or rejecting modern technology. It's about developing the cognitive sovereignty necessary to use these tools intentionally, rather than being used by them. It's about reclaiming the capacity for deep thought, sustained creativity, and meaningful presence that makes life rich and fulfilling. The Rosicrucians understood something that our distracted age desperately needs to remember. Your attention is your most precious resource, and learning to cultivate it skillfully is perhaps the most important investment you can make in your life. They developed these techniques not to escape the world, but to engage with it more fully from a place of centered awareness and sustained focus. 400 years later, their insights remain not just relevant, but urgently necessary. In a world designed to fragment your attention, developing the capacity for sustained focus isn't just a productivity advantage, it's an act of liberation. The ancient solution to your modern focus crisis isn't more willpower or better apps. It's understanding that your brain craves the very conditions these masters spent centuries perfecting. If you want to dive deeper into the historical context and practical applications of these techniques, I'd highly recommend reading Francis Yates' The Art of Memory, which explores how these visualization and concentration methods shaped Western intellectual history. The ancient masters left you the keys to reclaiming your mind from the digital chaos that surrounds you. Every moment you spend developing these skills is a moment you're taking back control of your own consciousness. Share your thoughts on whether you've noticed these focus challenges in your own life, and let me know if you'd like to explore more ancient wisdom that's surprisingly relevant to modern problems. The sanctuary of focused attention isn't just a historical curiosity. It's your birthright as a thinking human being.